Hello, it is December 19th, 2022, and this week I decided to do something a little different. I've put together a list of some of the biggest aspects that we experience throughout 2022, and I invite you to get out your calendars, get out your journals, and go with me through these aspects and see if you can come to some understanding of how they played out in your life. And you can see that we are a very tiny little rock next to a very big sun. I love this position of the planets because you can see just how big Jupiter is compared to Earth. Jupiter is going to play a very large role in the aspects that unfolded during this past year. One thing that is interesting about 2022 is that it did begin with Venus retrograde, which means we were reconsidering relationships, connections with others, also our tastes, things that we like and enjoy in the world. And so all those things were being reconsidered as we entered 2022. And as we leave 2022 right now, Mars continues in retrograde in Gemini, inviting us to reconsider how we assert ourselves in the world, how we individuate. And so two very big stories at opposite ends of the year. And if you're having a little trouble going back to January of 2022 and what was going on with that Venus retrograde, connected to your Pluto in Capricorn, because Pluto has been in Capricorn for a long time. It entered the sign in 2008. And 2022 is notable because it's the final year that it will be in Capricorn all year long. In 2023 and 2024, it will be in and out, moving forward into Aquarius, moving back into Capricorn. And so it'll be kind of like moving, where you're in your old place for a while, fixing things up, and then you're in your new place for a while, getting things started there and kind of going back and forth. That's kind of the energy of this moving from Capricorn to Aquarius that we'll be experiencing. But it's a good idea to start thinking about this long project, this long kind of breaking down and rebuilding, a construction project that's been going on in your life since 2008. How has it unfolded? And how has your life transformed? How have you transformed since 2008? For example, if Capricorn is your first house. I've known people with a Capricorn first house who since 2008 have been had relationships, long-term relationships end, and they've had to rediscover themselves as single people. Did something break down? Maybe you were very young. You were still home with family at the beginning of 2008, and this has been a process of breaking away and building your own identity as an adult, as Pluto's been in Capricorn. Also, you could possibly have started out not really liking the person that you were or wishing that you could be better, having that kind of breakdown phase, and then figuring out how to rebuild your identity. So all of those things could have been happening as Pluto was moving through the first house of your chart. And so early last January, Venus went over that Pluto 3 times. And so Venus brings, it's a benefic, it brings that helping hand. So did something come along that improved whatever situation you were in? Did you have maybe a friend help you out? Did a partner help you? Did some funds come available? So kind of looking back over what was happening earlier in the year that could have helped you along in this reconstruction process. And we're also right now having Venus in Capricorn again, so that might help jog your memory as well. We won't have it going retrograde. It's just going to pass over once at the end of this month. But again, just kind of looking for the helpers who are kind of helping you along. For example, if this is a long transit through your second house that began in 2008, possibly maybe you have totally reworked how you earn, how you spend. You've reconsidered your values, what's important to you. Perhaps Venus coming into Capricorn kind of gives you that extra hand, maybe a little extra income. Somebody helps you out financially, or maybe just you feel better about yourself from all that you've been able to accomplish. And then also, the question is, before Pluto leaves Capricorn for good, take a good look around that area of your life. What still needs to be done? You know, some things have broken down, some things need to be rebuilt. What still needs to be done? For example, if we go back to the second house example, maybe you've really improved your income. You're making more, but gosh, you're still spending a lot. Can you start thinking about what's the best way to budget my money so that I'm getting the best benefit from this hard-earned money? So also thinking about that is going to be helped by the fact that Mercury is going to be retrograde in Capricorn later this year and early next year. And so Mercury is a good list maker. So it's almost, I would invite you to just kind of sit down with the old yellow legal pad and think, okay, if this is the area of my life, you know, is it my identity, first house? Is it my finances, second house? Is it my relationship with siblings, third house? What still needs to be done in that area of my life before Pluto goes into Aquarius for good in November of 2024? So it's not like you need to turn around and do it tomorrow, but it's good to get a 2-year plan at this point for getting that area of your life kind of under control, feeling like you have mastered it. You've taken on the challenge of rebuilding something, and it's now in really good shape. We also, this past year, if we look at kind of the lunch bucket work in our chart, it's been where Saturn is. Saturn has been in Aquarius since 2020. It had a brief visit to Aquarius in the spring and early summer of 2020. And then at December, just at that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at the end of December of 2020, Saturn was in Aquarius for good. And it's only going to be there for a few more months. It goes into Pisces in March of 2023. And so when looking at Saturn transits, I think it's a good idea to first stop and say, what have I accomplished in this area of my chart? What have I been challenged by? What difficulties have I faced? How have I really put my nose to the grindstone and improved? You know, if you're having a Saturn and Aquarius in your third house, you know, your daily life has been hard. Maybe you had a long commute, or maybe that you were very isolated at home and trying to work. Maybe that you were struggling to communicate with close family members during this time for difficult, there could have been difficulties or something. Have you been working very hard maybe to build up a newsletter or a blog, or to communicate in some way with other people around you? Have you been working on your writing skills? Have you been trying to learn some practical skills that can help you better negotiate your life? Or just have you found that you were just really intensely busy and needed to get yourself very well organized and very structured so that you could get everything done that you needed to do? And also with Saturn there, were you able to also kind of manage your life so that you could deal with all the stress of the busyness and the pressures you were under? So just looking at, you know, how you've grown in ability, patting yourself on the back is important at this point in the review that we're doing. And then also, because this is Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius asks us to be responsible to our community. For example, if Saturn is in your fourth house, maybe you became very involved in family matters, and that were maybe helping your family itself contribute more to the community, thinking, you know, we have a pretty good life. Can we do something where we do like a neighborhood cleanup? Or can we go work somewhere in the community that provides services for other people? Or just have we really made sure that we were well connected with the people around us, that we built up strong networks of supportive families and individuals who helped each other out when needed. So kind of that responsibility question is important, social responsibility in doing your life review. And then remember, Saturn's going into Pisces, a whole new set of challenges in March. So is there something that still needs to be done? Also, Saturn in the fourth house, could be just a lot of work around the home, repairs, or maybe getting your house ready to sell, things like that. You need to go around and make that punch list, of things that you still want to get done. So using this time, these next few months, to get ready to leave this house, just like we wanted to leave our Pluto house in apple pie order before moving on to the next energies that we're going to be dealing with. But also Saturn in Aquarius has been particularly challenged these past 2 years by a square to Uranus in Taurus. It began in 2021 and we had 3 exact squares. And this year they've stayed close. They came as close as they were going to come in October of this past year, but all year they were within orb. And we'll see that the nodes also made this square a little bit louder than it had been in the year before. So this is a real conflict that we've been experiencing worldwide, freedom versus responsibility. That Uranus in Taurus is very much that I have needs, damn it, really demanding your rights as an individual. But Saturn in Aquarius in square is saying you have social responsibilities. And so you can see how that played out through 2021 with all of the COVID protocols and lockdowns. Some of that's continued in 2022, but also you think about the economy that wants to grow. You think about the high inflation that Uranus in Taurus, prices just soaring for basic goods. And then that Saturn in Aquarius, that we have social responsibilities. We need to raise the interest rates to bring that inflation down. So that's another way we've been dealing with that freedom versus responsibility. And so if you have that in your chart, we've all had that energy in our chart, but then you have to pinpoint what's been going on. Go back to that Saturn house where you've been working on social responsibility and you've carried responsibilities. For example, if you have a 5th house Saturn transit in Aquarius, you've got some sort of creative project that you're just really going great guns on, that you just feel that you have something you need to express, something you want to build, something you want to put out into the world. And so you're very much working on your creativity. Or, of course, this is a house of children. And so children could be demanding a lot of responsibility from us. Also, you think about this as being sports, games. Maybe you've become very serious about some sort of a sport or activity that you've been engaged in. So that is just kind of pulsing away in our lives. And then in square, we've got Uranus and Taurus in the 8th house of shared finances, other people's money. Maybe to do the project that you want to do, you need to get a loan or borrow some money, even put things on credit cards, And so you're trying to balance that, trying to get the money you need to do the creative project you want. Or if you have children, it's putting a lot of strain on your partners and your finances. So kind of dealing with that energy that's saying, I want to have this money, I want to be in control of my finances. And then that 5th house that's saying, I want to create, I have things I want to do. And so always the answer when you've got this square is, have you found a way to give space to both energies? Saturn is in the superior position in this square. Saturn's usually going to win out when you're having that kind of battle between freedom and responsibility right now, but finding a way to allow for that freedom. You say, maybe I can't, if I've got this project and I want to put a lot of money on my credit card to do something I want to do with my project. Maybe you can kind of rethink that. Do I quite need to spend quite as much money? Is there a way I could boost my income a little bit or rearrange how I'm spending my money otherwise so I don't have to get myself trapped in debt? Or if the children are demanding a lot of your shared resources right now, Are there ways my spouse and I can maybe take mini vacations, have a night out where we just take a walk in the park or something because we don't have the funds. So finding ways to kind of express that joy and pleasure that Taurus is craving, and balancing out with that need that you have to create. So looking where that square is in your chart and finding a way to give space to both is important. And as I said, that North Node in Taurus is transiting through across Uranus. It crossed Uranus on August 1st, along with Mars. So if you look back, you might notice that that was a pretty dynamic time. And so the North Node in Taurus, the North Node is where the tide is coming in. And we had very big bangs on the drum with eclipses falling in that Taurus house in your chart. April 30th, we had a solar eclipse, which was the beginning. November 8th, a lunar eclipse, which was the culmination. So where in the Taurus area of your chart shows the tide coming in? Maybe this is a ninth house chart for you, that you've just been hungry. You think of where the North Node is hungry for learning, for travel, for new experiences. And you've just been longing for that, maybe to go to college, to enter a graduate program, to take a trip to a place you've never been before. Or maybe you just really long for time to dig into deep books. All these things would be what we're hungry for when that North Node is there. And when it meets Uranus, that need becomes even more electric and stronger. Maybe you just hear about this great opportunity, excuse me, for a graduate program, or for a trip that just sounds like something you've always dreamed of. But also with Taurus there, you want to ask, how am I building my physical security and meeting my basic needs? That you understand that even though, you've got all this energy wanting to pour everything into the ninth house, I can't learn everything. I can't take every trip, even though all of the ideas are kind of flooding in on you right now. What are the things that I really need? What's most important to me? Maybe the graduate programs that I'm just so dazzled by. Maybe what I need more is just to narrow my focus to something that's going to lead to a career, for example. So looking at the physical security in the house where that North Node is traveling, and also what are you learning about your personal values? When things become too much, it's important, to Marie Kondo them, and say, I've got all these tabs pulled up on my computer of graduate courses I would like to take. How can I really find the one that best meets my values or needs? Or what trip would be the most beneficial? Which trip could I take that I would love to have memories of for the rest of my life? What would be that meaningful to me? And so to help us in that kind of winnowing out process is the opposite side of the chart, where we have the South Node transiting through Scorpio. And so this is kind of the perfect balance for that Taurus North Node that's just taking in a lot. Scorpio helps us eliminate. Scorpio helps us to sort through and find out what at the core is most meaningful to us. And so the Scorpio area of your chart can show where the tide is going out. For example, I've talked to a few people lately who've had that Scorpio South Node transiting through their 10th house over the past year. And I said, oh, what was that like? And I said, oh, this past year I had 3 bosses. I just can't seem to keep one person, in charge of my department. Or someone else said, oh, my boss went out on maternity leave and I ended up having all the responsibility thrust on me. Someone else said, I just think that I'm on the right path with my career, but this year I've really been rethinking that, wondering if this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So you can see that South Node is kind of shifting sands in our chart. Where is the tide going out? And with Scorpio there, that's when we can kind of picture like everything is sort of pouring out, and you've got a sieve that it's all pouring out through. And so everything that's not necessary and not important will pass through. what's left there in the sieve will be what's golden, what's important for you. So this is where you're going to find your deepest sense of joy and satisfaction after you go through that period of releasing the things that are not serving you. So Taurus house in our chart, we're just taking great big bites of things and swallowing things. But in the Scorpio house in the chart, that opposite side, for example, if your 10th house is if your 10th house Scorpio, the tide's coming in that 4th house, the home. And so you think, okay, that's where the real important, meaningful stuff is coming in. And so what happens when you've got the South Node going through your 10th house, it's like life is telling you, kind of go back to that North Node and realize that your job is not your whole life, that you have other things in your life that are important, that are going to be there before you had your job, after you have your job. There's something permanent and enduring. During this year, check in with that, touch base with that. And just know in 9 years, the nodes will be reversed and you'll be going through and the exact opposite experience. And so this is kind of astrology's way of helping us find that equilibrium by seeing where things build up a lot. And we do need things to build up a lot because we're taking in the world as we live. And so we get to the point of saturation. The South Node helps us to release what is not meaningful or important to us. So that's been a very dramatic example of something that's been going on really for 2 years in the case of Saturn in Aquarius, and this past year and a half with the nodes going through Taurus, Scorpio. But the big story, I think, of 2022 has been what's happened with Jupiter and Neptune in your Pisces area of your chart. We had Jupiter in Pisces, where it loves to be as its domicile, until May 11th this past year. And so that was asking us to align our work with our spiritual values, but also where you may be seeking escape or delusions. And what were you longing to create? So all those are good questions to ask in your Pisces area. For example, if it's 11th house, you might start looking at your friends and your groups that you're aligned with. Are these people that are really working? Are we on the same page as far as spiritual values or what we really want from our lives and how we want to spend our time? You know that there are certain people in your life that you spend time with them and they energize you, and other people just drain you. So kind of finding where you can find the people who are most, I don't know, kind of feel that same spark within yourself that you feel, that the same things interest you, even if it's maybe a group of people, you all play golf together, or you get together for a reading club, or you walk together. You're playing pickleball, whatever you're doing that, something lights you up that you're happy to do, and finding the kindred souls that enjoy that same thing is such a wonderful example of Jupiter in the 11th house. But also we had Jupiter slip into Aries at the middle of the year, and it stayed there through October 28th. And, Jupiter has been in collective signs since 2016. And so now Jupiter's in the most personal of all the personal signs, that sign that says, I am, it's just that individualist, explorer, the pioneer, the trailblazer, very much the I person. And so Jupiter in Aries is kind of saying, I'm back. There are things I've been very concerned with the world. I've been concerned with my family, my friends. All that's been great. But hey, can I carve out a little something in my life that's just for me, that I'm going to do because I just have that fire within me that I want to do it? And with Aries, you think about it as something new that you haven't done before. And so what did you initiate in those months when Jupiter was in Aries? Did you take a trip and now you want to take more trips? Did you start a course of reading that just really excited you and you want to get back to it? Did you start a new relationship? For example, if Jupiter was going through your seventh house, did you get out into the dating world and find that that was really interesting to meet new people and you're anxious to get back to it as Jupiter returns to Aries tomorrow, December 20th? And so as we have been going through Jupiter's journey this year, it has been really like going from one extreme to the other, from the very empathetic, collective Piscean energy of Pisces and into that very individualistic, me energy of Aries. But what is most significant, I think, about Jupiter's journey this past year is that it met with Neptune in conjunction in April. And this is a conjunction that only happens once every 12 years. I think the last time was in 2009. And so this begins a new cycle of Jupiter and Neptune together. And people were pretty excited about this coming along, looking forward to it when they were doing year ahead. And it was, a very important, impactful conjunction. However, because it's in Pisces, and because which is what's called a feminine sign, a yin sign, it's more of a sign, it's more of an interior journey. And so I found that the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction had a lot more to do with visioning and seeing things, because where Neptune is in your chart, Pisces, it's been in Pisces since 2012. And so where Neptune is, we tend to be all over the map. If you've got Neptune, for example, in your, let's say it's in your sixth house, you just keep having these ideas of things that you would like to do to serve. I would like to have a job, in Africa. I would like to have a job in an inner city. I would like to have a job in my community, but doing something that's really important. Also, you think about your health, taking care of your body. Oh, I've got this great fitness program. I've got this great diet. Everything is just kind of shifting and going all over the place with that Neptune swimming around in Pisces. And so Jupiter coming into connection with it in April this past year kind of took that Neptune and put it up on a big movie screen and said, let's just take a good look at this spiritual journey that you're on. All these kind of flashes of inspiration and insight that you get, which seem to melt away another week or two later. And so what came in at that time, at the conjunction in Jupiter? Did you see some things pretty clearly about how you can align yourself with your spiritual values? But also, you think about Pisces is fish swimming two separate ways. And so also, were you deluded? Maybe you got a vision with that sixth house Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. This is the job path I want. This is where I can really serve. This is an organization that I feel that I can be most beneficial to. But maybe you got something else. Maybe you connected yourself with a group that were not all they purported to be. So kind of looking to see where you got some true inspiration and where you were deluded at this time of the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. And so just to kind of help us with this process, Jupiter returned back to Pisces, October 28th to December 20th. And so it's almost like it's giving us a chance to revisit all of this energy in our Piscean house. And so as you revisit your work as Jupiter was in Pisces earlier this year, you treat yourself very kindly. Realize that it's complicated to be a human being. We have information coming at us from all angles. We have to sort through it all. We have people influencing us. So to try to get that vision of what we want to do to create a better life for ourselves, a better world for our fellow humans, it's complicated. It takes some sorting through. So looking to see where you got these visions and what are some of the things that you can do to implement them. Because Jupiter in Pisces also is making that 60-degree sextile to Pluto in its last degrees of Capricorn. So those two houses are working together in a very harmonious way. For example, if you have that Jupiter in your 10th house in Pisces, you're thinking, I really think I have the right career path finally. You've got that vision of something that you would like to do, and then Pluto's been kind of cooking away for a long time in your 8th house, dealing with shared resources, dealing with the money that we owe to others. And you think, and also I think of the 8th house as being the needs of others, how we meet the needs of others. And so at this time, maybe you can get that sense of, I've got a career that can best serve the needs of others using my gifts, for example. So looking to those two houses and see how they help and support each other is going to help you with, remember we talked about that journey with Pluto, looking to see what still needs to be done in this project under construction in our life since 2008. But also Jupiter coming back into Pisces is kind of like your mother coming back in and into your room and saying, okay, the teacher's coming. You're going to be in school tomorrow. Have you done all your homework? Would you like for me to check it? I know you've got this, but just take an extra look around to be sure that you've done everything that you were assigned. Because Pluto is coming into Pisces in March, into the same area of your life. So where you've been kind of floating around with Neptune, where Jupiter's kind of helped you envision things, you've got the teacher coming in to say, you're doing an okay job here, but here's how you can do better. They're going to give you some challenges. They're going to give you some restrictions, things that you might need to do. If all of this is going on, for example, in your 12th house, you think that, I've really spent a lot of time in retreat and meditation in the past year with Pisces, Jupiter in Pisces. It's really enriched that inner life, that inner journey, feeling like I've connected to my unconscious or the collective unconscious even. A lot of inner spiritual work you've been doing. And so as Saturn comes in next year, it's going to say, okay, now what can you do with that? Do you want to start teaching others to do this? Or from your meditation, have you learned what you can do to put yourself on a more spiritual path? Are there some things you need to give up? If this has been, for example, a 12th house journey with Neptune and Jupiter there, a journey of addiction, Saturn coming in here could be, the meetings that you go to, the therapy you seek, because you realize through that whole sort of swimming around with Jupiter and Neptune and Pisces that addiction is robbing your life of its vitality and keeping you from doing what you would like to do in the world. And so you're seeking a kind of a structured plan for helping you to move past that addiction. So you can see how Saturn coming in here is bringing very practical solutions to these problems that have seemed to be kind of elusive, or something that you couldn't quite get your hands on and couldn't figure out how to manage. I'm very hopeful of this Jupiter transit through Pisces, that it's going to help us deal in a practical way with some problems that have seemed unsolvable up until now. But the final big surprise this year has been that Mars going retrograde in Gemini. Mars only goes retrograde every other year. So next year it'll be smooth sailing straight through after it goes direct on January 11th. And so Mars retrograde, really rethinking how we're doing things, and especially when it's in Gemini. Rethinking is important, talking about, journaling about, how are we really asserting ourselves in the world? What are we saying and doing? Is it really leading us towards our higher good? Are we answering fear or are we answering love? Are we moving towards heaviness or are we moving towards light? And so those questions are all, shooting at us all the time as Mars is retrograde in Gemini. And for almost the whole time, it's within orb of square to that Neptune. And so you can see this is like a Mars explorer up here, is kind of shooting rays at that Neptune. So you think that you figured out, for example, if Neptune's in your fifth house, you think, oh, I've got this great creative inspiration. I'm just ready to, get out my paints or to start writing my symphony, or maybe starting to think about having children. So I've got this big ideal. Jupiter's come along and brought me the visions, but now Mars is sitting here and saying, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Have you thought of that? Do you have the money? Do you have the time? Is there a simpler way you could do this? Are there other people who could help you do this? So all the questions that are coming at you at that Neptune that's been so featured this year are really important, because Mars is saying, are you seeing an oasis or are you seeing a mirage? And so it's kind of like that final test. You can think about this year then, we've had Jupiter and putting Neptune up on the big movie screen that we're seeing our visions and our hope. But Mars is asking us at this point to, pull the curtain across the movie screen, turn up the house lights, and look around you and say, wow, look what is right here with me right now. Because sometimes with Neptune, we're looking for something that's over there. It's something that's perfect, something that's ideal, that we're reaching towards, that we think we should attain, either to fulfill ourselves as human beings or to be happy. And that's all well and good to do that, but it's also very important to have that moment when you look around and you realize that my everyday life is pretty wonderful too. Einstein said we can live as if nothing is a miracle, or we can live as if everything is a miracle. So finding those miracles in your everyday life, I think, is a real important challenge here at the end of 2022. Because this year we've enhanced our vision with Jupiter meeting Neptune in Pisces. We've tested it and revised our plan with Mars in Gemini. But now we're kind of preparing ourselves to meet the test. We're preparing our dreams to meet the test as Saturn moves into Pisces. By 2025, it's going to be in conjunction, Saturn and Neptune in conjunction. And that's a wonderful aspect for manifesting in a very practical way, Saturn, something that's been dreamed of, Neptune. But reminded always at the end of this year that while we're reaching towards something, we're taking time to appreciate where we are right now is so key and so important. So I invite you all to go back over your year. If you have other aspects that you think have been really important and significant, include those too in your review, and get yourself prepared now and focused, looking forward to a brand new year in 2023. And as you look forward, I ask my astrology friends, please, please, please don't ever let our beautiful astrology make you feel fearful or anxious. You can see, looking back over the past year, we've had some things that have been difficult. We've had some things that have been, traditionally easy or difficult, but we've lived through them. We've grown from them. We've evolved from them. And our life is better because we've had those experiences. As Stephen Forrest says, the stars are here to help us. So in any case, I thank you all for your attention and for listening to my videos and ramblings over this past year. I've so appreciated your attention and your very kindness in your responses. And I look forward to rejoining you next year with some more deep dives into celebrity charts. So thank you all, and I wish you all a star-studded holiday season.